Hello to you all. We are delighted you can join us today. After 1 year hiatus, we are pleased to bring you the 2021 CaRMS Forum. Of course, our huge preference would be to see you all in person. However, here we are with the next best thing, and with the added benefit of some of you being able to attend when even in non-pandemic times that would not be possible. This is being recorded, and the video will be posted on our website and YouTube channel later this week. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Daniel McFall, to give you a brief overview of how you can ask questions throughout the presentation.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to quickly review some housekeeping before we get started. Throughout the presentation, we will have 2 designated times for questions, one roughly in the middle of the presentation and one at the end. On the right side of your screen, there is a panel for chat and questions. Please ask your questions in the questions tab. Feel free to type in your question at any time. You don't need to wait for the question period. We also ask that if you see that someone else has already asked your question, that you upvote their question rather than asking again. That way we can see that there's an interest in that answer. If you have a question specific to a slide, please include the slide number in your question. When we reach a question period, our moderator is going to invite you onto the stage to ask your question. You do not need to turn your camera on, though we would love to see you. If you have a follow-up question after John answers, we encourage that you ask while you're still on stage. That's all for me. I'm going to hand it back to John.
Thanks very much, Danielle. May 20th marked the end of a match cycle for 2021. What follows is a selection of data from the match cycle. A full package with more than 30 additional slides will be available later today. The 2021 match year has looked different in many ways. The changes the COVID-19 pandemic brought to the entire world were reflected in the match cycle. Visiting electives were canceled, the match timeline was compressed and pushed later in the year. All interviews were virtual. Stay-at-home orders and travel restrictions meant no social events or site visits. There were challenges with exam availability and access, and modifications were made to ensure all match documents were submitted electronically. All this change contributed to a collective feeling of uncertainty, as many of us wondered what effects these adjustments and disruptions would have on the match itself. This is one of the questions the data can help us answer today. I do want to take the opportunity to thank all of our colleagues, clients, and stakeholders for their gracious and collegial efforts as we all navigated this time of change. In any year, match outcomes are a function of the inputs, and the inputs are essentially the decisions made by the participants. You may hear me refer to the match system as a market, where applicants are looking for training positions and programs are looking for trainees. Each applicant and program with their own unique set of desirable characteristics they are seeking. Applicants and faculties make many decisions throughout the application and match process, but these are the big ones. Participation as applicants and setting quota by programs, applicants applying to programs, interview offers, and attendance, and then ranking. That is when the algorithm is processed and those ranking decisions are optimized to produce the best possible outcomes. All the data we're about to look at unpacks various aspects of those decisions and the resulting outcomes. In the context of what has been a unique year, we will look at how the decisions made this year differed or did not differ from those in previous years, and accordingly, how those inputs affected the outcomes. We'll first look at our 3 subspecialty matches. What you see here is the medicine subspecialty match with some of the basic match outcome measures. Matched applicants in the blue column, match rate, the green line, and fill rate, the burgundy line. This year, there were 570 applicants to 558 positions in 21 disciplines. There has been a steady increase over the past 6 years in both positions and applicants. Similar view for the pediatric subspecialty match. This year, there were 98 applicants with 123 positions in 16 subspecialties. I should note here that detailed data for our subspecialty matches can be found on CaRMS.ca. And here we see the outcomes for the Family Medicine Enhanced Skills Match. Note that this is the first year all Category 1 enhanced skills programs were included at a national level. Quebec enhanced skills programs have been included since 2019. Prior to 2019, This match was limited to the Family Medicine Emergency Medicine Enhanced Skills Program. This year, there were 264 positions in Category 1 programs available to 335 applicants. Of note, of the 34 unfilled positions, 18 were in care for the elderly. And now on to the R1 match. This table outlines at a high level the steps for applicants leading to full participation in the match. We will refer throughout the presentation to 3 cohorts. The 2 largest cohorts, International Medical School graduates, or IMGs, are those graduating from a school that is listed in the World Directory of Medical Schools. Canadian medical graduates, or CMGs, are those graduating from an LCME or CARMS accredited school. We do identify United States medical graduates, or USMGs, where we know there is specific interest in that cohort. In any match, applicants begin by registering. They become active applicants by applying to at least 1 program, and final participants are those who submit a rank order list. In total, just over 4,300 applicants submitted a rank order list in this year's R1 match. In the full cycle of the R1 match, both first and second iterations, 3,272 positions were filled, leaving 94 unfilled, 89 of which were in family medicine. Of the 2,975 CMGs who submitted a rank order list, 2,852 matched. That includes 2,746 current and previous year graduates without postgraduate training in first iteration, and in the second iteration, 106 current and previous year graduates matched, including 28 with prior postgraduate training. 1,365 IMGs participated in one or both iterations, with 410 matching. And finally, 10 United States medical graduates matched of the 17 who participated. Those of you quick to do the math will note there is a gap between the number of current year CMGs unmatched, 158, in the first iteration, and the sum of the matched and unmatched CMGs in second iteration. The difference is those who chose not to participate in second iteration after not matching in the first. I just referred to the CMG applicants who not matched in first iteration and choosing not to participate in second iteration. The burgundy on this slide indicates current year Canadian medical school grads who were not matched in the first iteration and went on to participate in the second iteration. The blue indicates those who did not choose to participate in the second iteration. You can see that an increasing proportion chose not to participate. We'll take a closer look at that group a bit later in the presentation. Here is a regional breakdown of the unfilled positions in the orange, current year applicants not matched after second iteration in the green, as well as those unmatched in first iteration choosing not to participate in the burgundy, to participate in the second iteration in the burgundy, and unmatched previous year Canadian medical grads are in the dark blue. Here's a view of IMG participants broken down into 8 regions based on the location of the applicant medical school. UK schools are included in the Europe region. You can see a small increase in match percent in total from 29 to 30%. One significant increase in match rate is for graduates of African-based medical schools, from 15% in 2020 to 23% in 2021. In total, 3,272 positions filled, 410 by IMGs, 84 by previous year graduates of Canadian schools, 2,768 current year CMGs, and 10 USMGs. Slightly fewer than 2020, on par with 2019 in terms of positions filled. One aspect to note is the lower number of USMGs matched this year, 10. This is one implication of the change in timelines and sequence of the US and Canadian matches this year. As we know, visiting electives were not available this year, with, of course, much interest as to the implications of that change. Following are 2 views through the elective lens. Electives data is based on information applicants enter into their R1 applications regarding full and part-time clinical electives. This is a view of the average number of elective disciplines reported. This year, matched applicants, which are represented by the burgundy line, reported on average electives taken in 5.7, matched applicants 5.2, and unmatched applicants, here I get tangled up a little bit. In the blue line is the elective disciplines taken by matched CMG, so that is 5.7, and for unmatched it's 5.2. Probably not surprisingly, a reduction from 2020. Data for unmatched CMG applicants did not indicate a change to the average of the last 2 years after a drop in 2019. As a note, from here forward, many slides will relate to first iteration only. They will be identified by this indicator in the lower right-hand corner. And here is the average number of electives reported. Not surprisingly, both matched and unmatched CMGs report on average fewer electives taken. Matched CMGs have returned to historical averages after a sharp increase last year from 9.1 to 11.2 and now at 9. As I mentioned at the beginning, there are many decision points and inputs: program quota, participation, application, interview offers, and ranking choices. On this slide, we see participation and quota in the bars and participation in the lines. We have IMG in burgundy and CMG in blue. After last year's drop in the number of IMG participants, that number remained fairly consistent this year. Quota for IMG applicants remained consistent with the past few years, while CMG quota dropped slightly after last year's increase, and CMG participation also dropped slightly year over year. Here we focus on the CMG components. Quota is the burgundy line above the bar. Blue portion of the bar is current year Canadian medical graduate participation, and green is prior year CMG, and the orange circle contains a ratio. Given the quota available to CMGs and the participants, the ratio of quota to participants is consistent with last year, 1.044, which was an increase over the previous 4 years. The ratio now, 1.044, is about at the level that was last seen at in 2014, 2015. Let's break down those available positions for CMGs. And these are discipline groupings you will see used frequently: family medicine, internal medicine, non-surgical, and surgical. Surgical disciplines include cardiac, orthopedic, vascular, plastic, general, and neurosurgery. Also includes obstetrics, gynecology, ophthalmology, otolaryngology, and urology. Non-surgical includes all remaining disciplines with the exception of family medicine and internal medicine. If you'd like to see a definitive list of disciplines and their groupings, you can find that information in the interactive charts on CaRMS.ca. As we have seen, a slight reduction in overall quota from 2,882 to 2,854, and that is spread across most discipline groupings with the exception of surgical, which did see a slight increase. Of course, there are many changes at individual discipline levels, usually small in magnitude. Of note, this year, within non-surgical disciplines, anesthesiology increased by 5, while pediatrics reduced by 5. Here we see the average number of applications by each of the IMG and CMG cohorts. Average applications for IMGs in the burgundy line have returned to the levels last seen in 2017, while CMG average applications have remained consistent these past 4 years after 5 years of a fairly steady increase. Another data point I will share, and we are doing more analysis on this, is that approximately 85% of all applications are ultimately included on rank order lists. To my mind, this is a good news story in that applicants conclude after the entire process that they are prepared to train at a substantial majority of the programs where they have applied. Here we see total program applications in relation to both quota, which is in the green, and total number of distinct applicants in the blue. The overall number of applications have increased this year, as you would expect, based on the previous slide. That increase is driven entirely by an increase in average applications from international medical school graduates. Thinking of the decision flow, we now have applicants who have chosen the programs where they would like to apply. Programs then decide the applicants they would like to meet for interviews. And of course, applicants decide which interviews they want to attend. This is the second year we have hosted in CaRMS Online an interview offer notification feature. That also means we have been able to capture data on interviews offered by programs. This is a view for the last 2 years, 20 and 21, of the percentage of applicants receiving at least one interview broken down, at least one interview offer. And that is broken down by a number of cohorts. You can see with certain cohorts that almost all members receive at least one interview offer, while for the others, the percentage is much lower. Take into account that for some cohorts, the population size is fairly small, which can result in somewhat dramatic shifts year over year. With the same interview offer data, we can look at the percentage of CMG applications that led to interview offers. Here we see the percentage of applications to the CMG applicant's home school that led to interview offers, and that same view for applications to away schools. This year, there were questions as to how changes in visiting electives and virtual interviews might impact offers to home and away CMG candidates. With only 2 years of data, it is difficult to comment on any trends. However, nothing dramatic seems to have occurred in 2021 compared to last year. After interviews, both programs and applicants start to think about the biggest factor of all, ranking. An important feature of our match system is that it is safe for all participants to reflect their true preferences in their rank order lists, knowing that by listing their true preferences, they put themselves in the best position of realizing their desired outcomes. If you have any questions about that, I encourage you to go to CaRMS.ca and look for how it works, the match algorithm. Here we look at the first choice disciplines for Canadian medical school graduates. That is, the discipline reflected in the #1 rank on their rank order list. Family medicine in blue, with 31.4% of CMGs choosing family medicine as first choice. Internal medicine in green with 16%. Surgical in burgundy with 18%, and non-surgical in orange with 34.6%. We see a continued increase in non-surgical disciplines as first choice discipline since 2013, and 2021 also saw family medicine with a slight downward trend as a first choice, and that continues. Now, when we express availability of positions defined by quota as supply and first choice discipline of CMG as demand, we can develop ratios and can categorize disciplines based on those ratios. Disciplines with a ratio greater than 1 have more positions available than CMGs ranking that discipline as first choice. Conversely, if a ratio is less than 1, there are more CMG applicants choosing that discipline as first choice than there are positions available. The implications of that are clear, particularly if applicants rank only one discipline and that discipline has greater demand than supply. Here you can see our 4 familiar discipline groupings and the trends in the past 9 years. An upward slope indicates increasing supply relative to demand, and a downward slope indicates increasing demand relative to supply. Looking at the specific disciplines for 2021, here is the supply-demand ratio for all those disciplines with more supply than demand, or that are in equilibrium, i.e. a ratio of 1 to 1. There are 13 disciplines in this category. Here are the disciplines with more demand than supply. There are 21 disciplines in that position. You can see for some disciplines, there are slightly less than 2 applicants choosing that discipline as first choice for every position available. For example, otolaryngology, dermatology, ophthalmology, emergency medicine, plastic surgery. Again, the implications are clear if those applicants rank only one discipline. I thought it would be interesting to compare the list of disciplines with less than a 1-to-1 ratio from 5 years ago, 2016, to this year. So here we have 2021, 21 disciplines. And 2016, where 17 disciplines were in that same position. Notably, internal medicine and psychiatry are now in a greater demand and supply position. And both those disciplines have significant quota. This view shows us what the supply and demand picture of all disciplines taken together looks like for the past 7 years. Burgundy represents the percentage of CMGs with first choice of a discipline with more demand than supply. Blue represents the proportion with a first choice in a discipline with more supply than demand. As you can see, there are swings back and forth, with some years there being more CMGs to apply to disciplines with more supply than demand, such as 2015, 2016, 2018, and 2020, while 2017, 2019, and 2021, there are more CMGs choosing disciplines with more demand than there are available positions. The changes in the market are primarily due to what I mentioned previously, that is, psychiatry becoming a so-called high-demand discipline, while internal medicine has moved back and forth a few times, sometimes just under one and sometimes just over one. This is a new analysis that shows the results of both applicant and program rankings for applications to a CMG applicant's home school and to away schools. The blue bar is the national view, and each of the 4 lines represent a region. You can see a general upward trend of likelihood of mutual ranking beginning in 2015 at home schools, and since 2017 at away schools, with regional variation over those years. Now I think we'll pause for a few questions.
All right, thanks, John. We do have time for a few questions. So here is the most popular one at this time.
Significant differences. Every year there are differences between schools, and in fact between the same schools year over year. So the answer to that would be yes, there are differences, and in fact, just as a point of interest, we do issue a school level report which is provided to the faculty deans at each one of the schools, and then it's in their hands to distribute as they choose. So the answer is yes, there are differences. But there's, as I've seen it, what I see is usual, fairly significant, pretty natural variation from year to year within the same school and among schools. Some years, a school will have very few unmatched graduates, and in other years they might see a shift. So it's there's an up and downing amongst the same schools year over year and between schools in the year. So. But I can tell you that I've never seen a pattern of that over the 6 years I've been in this role, and looking back at the data, I've never seen a real pattern in that, either among schools or from the same school year over year. You might see 2 or 3 years, and then it'll kind of go back up or down. So that's my observation.
Great. We do have time for one more. So the next most popular question, I'm actually going to wait, because you do have data speaking to it in the next couple of slides. So we will start the next one here.
Well, so I'm not sure if when I look at the quota, I see the last 3 years the IMG quota has been quite similar. So I'm not so sure. I'd have to go back and peek at that same slide again. And if I don't know, Ryan, do I have time to go back to that same slide and just see if we can point anything out?
Yeah, you can take 1 minute for sure.
Yeah, okay, let me do that. I just have to navigate my my dashboard here. Just give me half a second here.
Just in the meantime, for everyone who's asked questions, I'm doing my best to answer some of them in the questions tab. As well, I'm reserving some of them for the end of the presentation, as there are subsequent slides that may address your questions.
So I think the question was about the drop in IMG quota over time. So I guess what I'm seeing is fairly level at 340-ish from 2013 to 2018, and then a drop to about 325-ish. So 15 drop. There's nothing that pops to mind for me specifically about why that is. We'd have to really look at the individual provincial level data and also at the discipline level data. So nothing pops to mind as to why that is, but I do see in 2018 a drop from about 340 down to 325. Sorry, in 2019. So we could go back and have a look at that, but nothing pops to mind. Brian, anything that comes to mind for you as to why what would be happening there?
No, with so many provinces populating and the quota changes, it'd be tough to pinpoint one particular thing. It's not nationally dedicated quota. It's, as you've explained, it's established at the school level in conjunction with the province. So I can't put my finger on anything unique.
Yeah, good question. Well, and by the way, there is there is data on CaRMS.ca which goes back into time. So if you had the time that you wanted to actually tease that out amongst the various faculties and disciplines, the data is there if you're interested in really digging deep into that. Shall I move on, Ryan?
Yeah, I'd say that's a great opportunity to move on. And like I said to the attendees, we'll be taking additional questions at the end of the presentation.
Sounds good. Thanks. Okay, so we've seen participation, quota, applications, interview offers, and rank choices. At the beginning of the presentation, we saw the overall outcomes of those choices. And here we take a bit more granular view of some aspects of the match outcomes. This is one of our standard outcome measures, which is the percentage of Canadian medical graduates matched to first choice discipline. Our four familiar discipline groupings, with the percentage of CMG applicants ranking that discipline as their first choice who matched to that discipline. I expect there isn't much surprise with these outcomes and trends given the supply and demand picture we just saw. Family medicine with a steady match to first choice discipline of above 99%. Internal medicine changing based on its supply-demand ratio, remembering that this has gone down below 1 and above 1 a few times over the last 4 or 5 years. And both surgical and non-surgical disciplines with a general downward trend since 2014, although a couple of ups and downs in the last few years. Here we see the percentage of CMGs matching to one of their top 3 choices from their rank order list. You can see that percent dipped somewhat this year compared to 2020, still within the 80 to 81% range of the past 5 years. And you can see the reduction this year is primarily due to a lower percent for those matching to internal medicine. Here's a view of mobility nationally. In fact, this is one of the areas that there was some wondering about what kind of impact there might be on this, given the visiting electives and again the virtual interviews. So we have ratios of CMGs matching to their home school, which is the Burgundy. So hardly moving off about a 50% range over the past 8 years. And within province, so outside of their home school, but within province, about a quarter of the time, and that's quite consistent. And again, very consistently, the other quarter going outside the province in terms of their match, which continued again into 2021. Here is a view by region showing applicants from each region and the region they match to. So we'll take a moment or two to orient here. So Western region, so we have the 4 regions, and then within each one of the regions, we have where the applicants from that region match. So green is Western region, blue is Ontario, orange is Quebec, and the burgundy is Eastern region. So we'll take Western region as an example in 2021. 648 Western region applicants matched to a Western region school, 150 to an Ontario school, 5 to a Quebec school, up here on the top, and 32 to an Eastern region school. So to my eye, although there's lots of data here, and it's maybe a little bit difficult to see any particular patterns, it's hard to discern really anything more than natural variation from year to year. We know there's interest in the numbers and trends of applicants applying in second iteration with prior postgraduate training. And the common term used is transfers. We don't use that term, as that would imply that all these applicants are currently in a residency program, which is not always the case. Here we look at those applicants over the last 5 years. Note that applicants with previous postgraduate training are only eligible to participate in the second iteration of the match. Total applicants each year in green, matched applicants in blue, and unmatched applicants in burgundy. The match rate in any given year is the orange line. Over the period 2017 to 2021, there were 215 applicants with prior postgraduate training who applied in the second iteration. 107 matched and 108 did not match. Of course, some of those applicants may be repeat applicants. As a point of reference, over that same period, a few more than 16,000 applicants were matched to positions in the R1 match. 2021 had the largest number of applicants in the past 5 years with 51. The match rate over the last 3 years has been between 55 and 60% for the last 3 years. We also know there are other methods for residents to transfer, so this is not meant to be a definitive data set of resident movement between programs, just so you know. This is a 5-year aggregate view of the movement of applicants with postgraduate training among and between disciplines. 78 applicants moved to a family medicine program over these 5 years, 6 to internal medicine, 19 to non-surgical disciplines, and 4 to surgical disciplines. So looking specifically at the group matching to family medicine, for example, 26 initially matched to a surgical discipline, 28 to a non-surgical discipline, 10 to internal medicine, and 14 to a different family medicine program. Here we'll look more closely at unmatched Canadian medical graduates and unfilled positions. This is the data on current year CMGs who are unmatched after both iterations, which is just around 1% these past few years, so 1.1, 0.9, 1.2, which of course is a substantial drop from the high points of 2017 and 2018, which were not quite 2.5%. And then we have the current year CMGs who do not match in first iteration and choose not to participate in the second iteration. And there's been an upward trend there since 2014, with this year being the highest proportion at 1.9%. Given that trend, we wanted to have a closer look, and one common thread for many seems to be the lack of opportunity in those applicants' first choice discipline going into second iteration. So just for example, a few disciplines that meet that criteria, so dermatology, where no quota available in second iteration, and there were 2 applicants with that discipline as first choice and chose not to participate in second iteration. Similarly, general surgery with 0, of course, quota available in second iteration, and 6 applicants who chose not to participate in second iteration, unmatched in first. 11, same criteria with internal medicine. And then here, ophthalmology and otolaryngology are some of the disciplines that are a bit more prominent there. Of the 53 CMG applicants who chose not to participate in the second iteration this year, 41 had a first choice discipline with no quota going into second iteration. And if you can think about what the implications are in future, that may have an impact in subsequent match years on disciplines that already have more demand than supply. So you have these disciplines that no quota available in the second iteration, folks choose not to participate, and they perhaps go into the subsequent match year and perhaps are focusing on the same discipline. So we're going to do a bit more analysis on that just to see exactly what happens with those applicants in subsequent years. This slide breaks down the unmatched applicants after second iteration, so those who did participate in second iteration, and it breaks them down into 4 categories. And the first category are those who were not ranked by any program, so the 33, just a little bit more than a third, not matched or not ranked by any program. A third ranked by some programs, but all those programs filled before that applicant's rank. And then about a quarter were ranked by all programs. However, again, programs filled before the rank. And then a small number, in this case, so 6%, in this case 2, could have matched but did not rank the program that ranked them. In addition to looking at match outcomes in the current year, we track CMG long-term match rates. As we see here, ultimate match success is approximately 99.5% for the past 8 years. And I do want to come back to the discussion of increased tightness in a number of disciplines and a somewhat increased tendency for CMGs not matched in first iteration to not participate in second. So notwithstanding those factors and trends, match success for CMGs in the initial and subsequent 1 or 2 years remains at 99% or above. So for example, the 2020 cohort here, with now 1 subsequent match cycle, has a match rate of 99.6%. So there are other mitigating factors that occur. And so trends of applicants applying to more than 1 discipline, for those not matched in first iteration to possibly change their first choice discipline in second iteration. So there's a lot of factors going on that lead to this outcome, a very strong result year over year. That to me is a strong indication that the system is quite resilient and capable of adapting to a changing environment such as what we experienced this year. So we'll finish on this summary slide with a reminder that there is much more data available, including analysis at a regional and discipline level, which will be included in the full presentation package. A link to that full package will be sent to you by email, and you will also be able to find the presentation on CaRMS.ca. So let's go back to a few questions.
Perfect.
Okay. I was wondering. Wow, that's a great question. I certainly appreciate the situation, and it's we are all about applicant success and program success, and so I would say, if you had put all the effort into your application, which I'm sure you did, and you are able to seek feedback from programs, and sometimes programs will give you feedback. Certainly engage with your undergraduate and student affairs faculty supports in all of the things that are possible in that realm. So I would consider all of the different opportunities available to you, and if there are some things that perhaps you didn't consider, that perhaps you give that some thought for a subsequent year. But I'm really not an expert on what programs are looking for. The program descriptions are, in my mind, are quite comprehensive in terms of what they're seeking. But if you can find somebody who is able to give you some guidance, some advice, again, your student affairs and undergraduate faculty are there to help and support. And in my observation, they do a terrific job. So that's my best advice.
Perfect. Thanks, John. And the next one I'm going to pull up is a fairly common question, but one that I think we can clarify here.
So we actually do have a breakdown of IMGs based on year of graduate, and I'm pretty sure we had made that available this year. We'll just check and make sure, but it will be on CaRMS.ca, I can assure you. And based on, CSA, well, we do not track data based on CSA or citizenship or that kind of breakdown. It's not an eligibility criteria that we track, so we don't have CSA, or I guess formatted graduate would be the acronym. We don't track that data, but we do track year graduate data, and I suspect if you look back at CaRMS.ca in probably in a few weeks' time, you'll be able to see that data available under the 2021 R1 match year.
Thanks, John. There are, so to the audience, there's a significant number of questions around IMG-related data for match rate success. And just for everyone to hear it at the same time, we don't produce data at that level or conduct analysis at that level right now. So a lot of the questions in here, they've been upvoted, we're gonna track them, and we'll be able to take them away and discuss how to potentially address them in the future. But we're not prepared to answer them as part of this call. So I just want to mention that you'll see there's a lot of upvoted and popular questions, but they're outside the scope of what we can probably do for you today. So let me just pull a question up here for you.
Well, Ryan, I do see one here. This just happens to be on my screen, which is about granular data available about which rank program candidates match to based on specialty, e.g. what percentage of Gen Surge applicants match to their first, second, third. That data is the interactive charts that I mentioned earlier and contain a fair bit of that data. In the larger presentation package that you'll receive, it actually breaks down a few disciplines on that front. So have a look there. But if there's some things that you don't find, to flip us a note, and we'll see if we can make something available for you.
All right, here's another one.
So do we collect information about why people choose not to participate in second iteration? So we don't survey them if that's the question. What I just kind of walked through was a bit of a it's a correlation, and I certainly am not going to call it cause and effect, but it's correlation in terms of the availability of positions in their first choice discipline. It's a good point. We do a post-match survey, and we do not typically ask that kind of question of that particular group, but it's something we could consider just to get a bit more of an understanding there. But as I mentioned, we are going to do some more analysis and see if we can't do some tracking about ultimate outcomes of those particular applicants and who did not choose to participate, and ultimately where did they match to, and what were some of their choices in their subsequent match year.
All right, here's an interesting question that we get probably annually. So,
the question, I guess the question is the number of people who match low on their rank order list. I guess the best indicator we have there are the people who ranked in their top 3 programs. I did look at there actually is a slide in the supplementary deck, and it actually is a frequency distribution of how many people rank at what point in the rank order list. So what I would suggest is that and that same slide is available in 2020 and prior years. I didn't discern anything remarkable when I looked at it. Typically about 90% of all the applicants rank in their top 5 ranks in the rank order list, and I didn't see a big change in that this year. Beyond that, I didn't look too granular level at the at those below that level. But again, it's usually about a 10% below 5, and beyond that, I didn't look too closely at it. But there is data. So have a look at the bigger package and previous CaRMS Forum packages, and you'll be able to look at its frequency distribution, and it'll be quite clear to you where that data where you'll find that data.
Here's a question about social accountability in the match process.
Well, I guess CaRMS is responding by providing the data, and I guess that really wouldn't be in response to that situation, but it's really to help inform. That's what we do for all kinds of aspects of the match system and availability of positions and preferences and so on. So the decisions to apply or not apply, and to rank or not rank, and how high are ultimately in the hands of the participants. So I think the way we would respond is, if there's any other data that we can provide that will help illuminate and help any of the participants and stakeholders and all that, we are here. There is quite a package of data in the larger presentation that you'll receive that does focus on family medicine, and it does things like break down the matched discipline for all those who apply to family medicine. It'll show the number of people who ranked family medicine as first choice, and then what discipline they ultimately matched to. So there's quite a package of family medicine focused data in the larger presentation deck. But again, if there's anything else that we can help with data on the data front, or helping understand in any respect, just let us know.
Bring another question up here for you.
Graduate military. We don't have that data at the tip of our fingers, but it's data we certainly could do. So let's take that away and put some attention to that. Yeah, that is something we certainly can do. Yeah, that's. I'm afraid that question is out of my pay grade in terms of what programs expect. Again, my best advice is to look at the program descriptions and discern from them. And I also know programs are open to just general inquiries on things if there's some specific things not in the program description. So that's probably the best I can offer at this point. Is look at the program description. And other material on that front.
Okay, I'm going to push one more question up for you, and this is your opportunity to answer an omnibus of questions in or around the same theme, and this is from one of our internationally trained attendees. That is not something that I can offer an opinion on. I know that programs are very thoughtful in terms of the kind of information they're looking for and how they assess applicants. I could not tell you which one is more important, other than if it's expressed as an aspect of eligibility, then it's important. And in fact, the BPAS principles and practices that programs have adopted, do attempt to indicate exactly, what are the basis of their assessments. So to the extent that programs are able to share that, that will be on the program description. And we will take at least one more here.
Yes, absolutely. So I mentioned that an set of interactive charts. So if you go to CaRMS.ca, what you'll see there are a set of worksheets that allow you to choose a discipline or even a grouping of disciplines, and it'll give you data on quota, number of applicants to that discipline, as well as the number who chose that discipline as their first choice. So that'll give it to you retrospectively, so historically, and it'll give you year over year over year. I think there's a 8 or 9 or maybe even more years of data in what are called interactive graphs, interactive charts on CaRMS.ca. If you go to the data, hit the data button there and go to R1, and it'll give you some links into those interactive charts, and all that data will be right there for you.
Thanks, John. And just to add a layer to that, the 2021 data is being updated as we speak. So if you looked at it right now, it would still only reflect 2020 data, but it will be updated shortly.
That's a great question. We are as eager and interested as all of you are in advancing issues around EDI. And we are looking forward to actually working with the community to identify what particular data would be most helpful for programs as they are recruiting and in pursuing their own mandates. So that is very, very high on our radar. I can tell you that at our recent board meeting, it was very prominent in our conversations. So we are going to be interested in having those conversations with our stakeholders in the coming months.
Thanks, John.
What percentage of unmatched CMGs last year is? So that's I'm not sure if I can answer that question definitively, but let's see. Let's go back. If we'll take a moment here, we'll go back to this slide and just say that. So let's just again go back. We'll do a little bit of deduction here, if that's okay. So last year we had 42 current year CMGs who did not match in first iteration and did not participate in second iteration. So 40. So that's 42. 25 who are unmatched, and that includes second iteration. So there we have 67 who from 2020 cohort who did not have a position at the end of the cycle last year. So now we come to this position. So now we have 11. So out of the 67, 56 found positions. Now I don't know exactly how much of those remaining 11 were the unmatched and did participate in second or did not participate in second, but it's I think it's pretty fair to say that the majority, the significant majority of those folks did match this year.
Perfect. Thanks, John. I'm just filtering through the list. And again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the questions in the tab are very specific and not data that we have available or answers that we can necessarily provide. But we will definitely take them away and figure out what the best way to respond to them is globally. So if your question doesn't make it to the stage, don't fret, we will. It's not that we don't believe it's an important question. It's just, it may not be the right time for us to speak on the particular topic. All right, John, here's one more.
Yeah, that again, that's a question that really, I think, probably further to Ryan's point, the eligibility and criteria under which different applicants are able to apply and compete for positions is out of the CaRMS realm. It's really a faculty and provincial jurisdiction combination of considerations and who set the eligibility, as well as the other policies under which the match operates. So CaRMS takes those policies and all that eligibility and operates the match, within that system. In terms of those specific decisions, we would have to turn to others to be able to answer that, I'm afraid.
Perfect. Thanks, John. I
do see a question about couples matching. The larger deck has data on the couples match, so before the end of the day, you'll be able to see that data.
Perfect. And we're just going to wrap it up with this last question here.
So while there won't be a similar verbal presentation like this, there will be the package of material will be available in French for sure, and that'll be available at the same time as the English version in about I say by the end of the day.
Perfect. So I think we can wrap up there, John.
Okay, thanks, Ryan, and thanks again, all of you. Really appreciate in your busy days and lots of things happening in your lives that you're able to join us for the last hour. Thank you very, very much. We hope you stay safe and well. Take care. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.